Story begins with Charles Bovary being forced to attend medical school by his mother. Even after failing the first time, he returns until he passes it and becomes a doctor.
Charles' mother also arranged his marriage to a wealthy widow who passed away a few years later when Charles realized she really did love him.
Before Madame died, Charles had met a beautiful young lady named Emma Rouault who happened to be single. After the death of Madame, he was able to pursue the woman of his own choice, Emma, who was only in love with the thought of a new life, not really with Charles.
Because of that, after adjusting to her new life, she began to feel bored. She felt that what she had with Charles wasn't enough and didn't compare to what she would read in her books. She grew depressed, which worried Charles.
Charles decides to move away, thinking that it would be better for her health. And when they move away, they realize that they are pregnant with a baby girl.
They arrive at Yonville where she meets a young handsome man, Leon, who she has a connection with but does not allow anything to happen between them.
Leon leaves to pursue his artistic dreams after Madame Bovary makes it clear that she will not commit adultery. The parting was difficult, but he felt it necessary. This creates a sense of emptiness in Madame Bovary that she tries to fill with by getting closer to Charles. A man named Rudolph soon shows up, however, and decides that he would do whatever it takes to get the beautiful young woman all to himself.
Rudolph continues to pursue Madame Bovary, using his charm and his sweet poetic verses until finally she falls in love for him. She becomes infatuated with this man to the point where she can't imagine life without him. He assures that the love is mutual, but
He was not ready for the type of commitment that she required. When she began to talk of running away with him and bringing her child along, he decides to run away.
He then proceeds to write her a letter in which he explains that he is leaving for her sake, although he had actually planned to leave her after he was done with her. This letter left her bedridden and in a state of depression to the point where she was considering suicide.
Lirec saw the flaw in Madame Bovary. He realized that she could be easily persuaded to buy beautiful clothes on credit and began to encourage her to waste all of their money. With this tactic, he was able to bury her in credit.
Leon returns to Yonville and makes a great attempt to get Emma to fall in love with him. He persuades her to spend a few days with him, using the excuse that she should finish watching a play, and after that, she began to fall in love with him. They continued their affair and met once a week, every Thursday. She began to get careless with their meetings with Leon since she didn't feel as guilty as she did in their first affair.
Because of her spendings, Madame soon became bankrupt and was losing her home. She went to Leon to try to persuade him to help her, but he tried, but he wasn't able to.
After the failed attempt with Leon, Madame Bovary runs to Rudolph and she begs him for the money that she needs. He replies that he does not have the money, and she responds that he never loved her in the first place, and she then becomes more desperate for the money that she needs.
Madame Bovary then goes to Leon's old boss, Monsieur G. She explains her many problems, and Monsieur G then tries to prey on her weakness by trying to make a move on her. Madame Bovary immediately leaves and is left with no hope.
All of her lovers suddenly betray her, and she can no longer handle it. Because of her dilemma and no one wanting to help, she goes crazy and runs to the chemist's house. She asks Justin, the servant, to give her poison for her rats, but instead, she decides to drink the poison to end her problems because she feels trapped in her world.
After Emma's death, Charles is devastated. He orders an extravagant funeral for her with lavish accessories. He tries to be the lover she always wanted even after she died by buying fancy clothes and accessories for himself. One day he finds the love letters that his wife and lovers exchanged. Being bankrupt and feeling betrayed were enough to kill him. While visiting his wife, he leaned on a tree and died unexpectedly.
After both parents' death, Berthe was sent to her grandmother, but that same year her grandmother died. She was then sent to her grandfather, which couldn't take care of her since he was paralyzed, so little Berthe was sent to an aunt. However, that aunt was poor, and she was forced to work at a cotton mill for the rest of her life.